Hello, it's Sean Bishop, Bishop Instruments and Bows here in London, and we're talking about what's new January 2025. I've just been going through what I've got. This is just a few things that have come in. I don't think I did one in December, I can't remember. So I just pulled a few things from the shelves that are with me now, and a couple of these violins I got back last week, so they're nicely sitting on my sofa while I decide what strings to put on them and all that. Cheers, here's to 2025. Yum, I needed that. Right, let's get on. Violins. So, first off the rank, Vincenzo Postiglione from Naples. I've had a few of these over the years. This has just come back after being set up by my restorer. And it's a really nice example, sort of circa 1880, 1890. Unlabeled, but unmistakably Postiglione, and we all know that I like the Naples makers. Actually, if you dig out an old Strad magazine from about, goodness me, probably 20 years ago, I wrote an article on Postiglione, and this is a similar sort of violin, very similar wood, but it's a really nice example, a bit on the smaller side. It's not a big, across the bouts here, on the treble bouts, it's a bit smaller. But I really like this violin, nice one. Let's have a play, just so you can hear this. Really open. Sounds great. Actually, you're in for a treat, because there's two violins that sound great that I've got just with me today. So that's Vincenzo Postiglione, one of the great Naples makers. Probably he's the link between the old school of Naples and the new school of makers. So he sort of taught Pistucci, Contino, I think Bellarosa. Well, Bellarosa went through Pistucci, but he was the last of the sort of the classical style makers, if we could say. Okay. Now the next violin. This is a rather tasty violin. Enrico Rocca, son of Giuseppe. This is a violin made in 1913. Unlucky for some, the year, I guess, 13, but lucky for me because I've got it. Inside it's got tons of signatures and writing, and it's quite funny is that the writing inside is coloured. I think it's purple or something like that. So it's not just the normal ink. Whatever it is, it's a funny colour, and which is sort of quite common for his instruments. And he's written inside everywhere, basically. It's his violin. It is in fantastic condition. There's actually no cracks on it, except for an original knot in the wood. And someone, possibly himself, has tried to sort of clean it up a little bit, and over the years, people have mucked around with it, and we've mucked around with it as well. So, but that's fine because it's original. I don't have a problem with that. But the violin sounds amazing, and it's quite strange because I think his contact with his father as a maker was very limited because he was young when his dad died. I think Enrico just started making when his dad died. But there's something unmistakably 19th century in his making, and the sound is absolutely out of this world. Let's have a quick play. So I hope you can get something out of the sound. Remember, it's always about the microphones in these recordings. And people often send me recordings of their violins. They've just made a violin. What do you think of it? And I say, well, I'm not going to judge a violin based on a recording from an Apple iPhone. It's very hard to judge. You can make a terrible violin sound pretty good if you muck around with it. So this is just an idea of what we've got. But I can promise you that this Rocca sounds fantastic. If you look at my website, you can see pictures of it. I think they're just up, or they'll be going up very soon. final violin, a violin by M.Tadioli of Cremona, 2018. He was one of the first people in Italy really to start doing antiquing on a big scale. So he used to make straight violins, which I've seen in the late 90s, but I think from the turn of the century, most of them that I see are copies, you know, and this is a copy of the Lord Wilton del Gesù, and it's nice. It's I sold this to a Swedish player, and she's moving on, and so I've got it back for sale. A very pretty violin. It's a nice. I like the colour. I like the violin. I like the colour. I'll have a quick play, just so you can compare. There we go. Of course, you could buy 12 of these for one rocker. I'll let you decide what you want. Right, and the final instrument, before we talk about bows, is Alessandro Tossani of Cremona. It's a viola he made for me based on the Giacomo Gennaro model, which I actually think is the most perfect model for a viola. That's over the years we've tried Amati, Guarneri, there's all those different types, but something about the Giacomo Gennaro, it's quite wide across the bouts. The corners are not too big, whereas I find the Amati corners on violas look a little bit, it's not for my taste. This is a bit more compact, I guess, that's what I like. But this is a viola that I've asked Alessandro to make quite a few years ago. We were talking about it. He's not prolific, he only makes a few instruments a year, and we last had a violin of his maybe 3 years ago, something like that. And that was just my favourite violin. And I sold it to a client in China who is happily wedded to that violin, I might add. He's in love with that violin, as so was I, and I was in love with that violin. And this viola, I'm in the same boat. I'm in love with this viola. I don't even need to play it and I'm in love. It's just the varnish, the colour, the workmanship, everything about it I love. And needless to say, he's making me another one and another violin, and maybe I'm going to get more because I like them. And I don't even care if I don't sell them. They can stay with me in the shop, hanging up, and I will be a happy man knowing that I've got a nice viola or violins sitting there. That's the sort of crazy world my brain is in at the moment. I like just nice violins. I like to have them in the shop. If they sell, they sell. Of course, that's the job. But I don't mind if they don't, because it's nice to have a few things to look at. That's obviously the collector side of me. So I will be sad when this goes. But it really is a special viola. I'll have a quick play and you can have a listen. Very hard to play at the desk, isn't it? But there's something very nutty about the sound, which I like. And I think anyone who plays on this will learn to find the sound that they want. Yeah, it's very tempting just to take this home and keep it. I haven't been known to do that. Maybe one day, maybe the next viola, we'll see. So there's the violas. Let's talk about some bows. I just grabbed some bows that were on my desk. Violin bow EA Ouchard, Emile Auguste Ouchard, made in 1935. This is one of his low flat models, which he made. He's the big maker at the moment, isn't he? His prices are going through the roof. Sartre's gone bonkers. So I've seen a Sartre recently. They're hitting £40,000, £45,000 for silver. Well, EA Ouchard has now hit £25,000, 25. It's all supply and demand, I guess. But I've got a number of these, and I continue to buy them. And they really work, and they're really nice. And one thing I like about EA Ouchard, for myself, let me just grab it, is that you know it's sort of more or less one person. My big issue with Sartre, even though I like them and I can appreciate their fine qualities, is that you feel, well, it started off being made by somebody else, and Sartre finished it, because Sartre was making 20 bows a week, so they say in the books. And everywhere you look, there's a Sartre violin bow. And the standard is very high. You can buy a Sartre almost without trying it, because you know it will be good. EA Ouchard, they're a bit more varied. And I like that sort of variation that he gives. And this is a very nice bow of his, very nice violin bow. And we've got 3 or 4 of his bows available in my collection. Right, viola bows. Let's talk quickly about that. Hill & Sons, W.E. Hill & Sons. This is a very nice bow. Martin just rehaired it. If I remember correctly, I've got to be a bit quick here. 1937. It's made by, I think, Sidney Yeoman. Something like that. Anyway, it's a very nice octagonal stick, ivory, frog, and button. And they really work. I love these bows because I myself, when I was a musician, over 20 years ago, played on a hill bow. They do the job, and they work. They feel nice in the hand and make a great sound. I had a very nice Lamy, which I used as well, but it was a bit like a Ferrari, and in the orchestra I couldn't always control it. It was a very big sound. It was a powerful bow, whereas the Hill does what it's told, and so and that's a pretty one with the gold and the ivory. I might add, ivory is still legal for bows that are older than 1974, I think is the cut-off period. But yeah, so don't worry too much about that. Right, there's a Hill viola bow, and then one more viola bow, Louis Gillet. So Louis Gillet worked for Sartre. So it's a poor man's Sartori, but actually it's even more than a poor man's Sartori, because it used to be half the value, but Sartre viola bows are hitting 50, 60, 70, I don't know, 60. And this is less than 30 for sure. I've got about 3 of these Louis Gillet viola bows, and they really work. This bow has original lapping and original thumb leather. I think Raffin, Cabinet Raffin, call it très beau. You know, it's the finest quality. Made in about 1960, so towards the end of his life. So it's a very strong bow, but really nice bit of wood, and you can really see in the octagonal stick that the wood is, it's a lovely piece. So I quite like that. When we talk about Sartre viola bows, I am getting one. I've got one already. I've got another one coming. I might have 3 Sartre viola bows in the next week or 2. So if you're looking for a great viola bow, I've got fantastic viola bows by Fatigue, Tubbs, Sartre, Hills, Thomasin, Chanot, etc. Jean-Jacques Millan, Bernard Millan, the list goes on. William Tubbs, very nice William Tubbs. Anyway, that's me for today, for What's New January. I'll see you in a couple of weeks for What's New in February. Bye-bye.